The citizens who had slept on the bank of the Tamasa woke up in the morning and looked round. They were surprised to see that Ram and the chariot had disappeared. They followed the track of the chariot wheels, but were disappointed to find that it was lost in the main road to the capital. They returned home to their own houses and sought satisfaction in reviling Kaikeyi. Without Ram, the city was bereft of beauty and wrapped in gloom. Sumantra and the princes had crossed the Tamasa long before dawn and traveled far into the forest. Crossing several streams, they approached the southern boundary of the Koshala country. Conversing on many matters, they went forward. When they reached the southern boundary of the kingdom, Ram stopped the chariot and, facing north towards Ayodhya, bent his head in a prayer, saying, "O jewel among cities, O ancient capital of the Ikshvakus, shall I, finishing my penance in the forest, live to see my father and mother and you? Oh, please grant me that supreme joy." The chariot reached the bank of the Ganges. They proceeded along the bank, admiring the beauty of the river. Finding a spot of surpassing charm, Ram said, "We shall spend the night here." Untying the horses, they sat under a tree. Guha, the chief of the region, having learned already from his men that Ram would be coming there, came forward with his retinue to greet Ram and Lakshman. He had unbounded love for the royal family and for Ram. Being the chieftain of the tribes who dwelt on the banks of the Ganges, he was a man of great prestige and power. Ram and Lakshman rose to greet Guha, even while the latter was still at some distance from them. Guha welcomed them with a hearty embrace, saying, "Regard this land as your own. This place is as much yours as is Ayodhya. Who can hope to have a guest like you? It is indeed my good fortune." Guha had prepared a lavish entertainment. He said, "Feel perfectly at home and happy in my kingdom. You may spend all the 14 years with us here. You will not lack anything, I assure you. Looking after you will be a pleasure and a privilege to me. Be gracious enough to accept my hospitality." Warmly embracing Guha again, Ram said, "Brother, I know how deep is your love for me. Your wish is itself as good as hospitality rendered. But I am bound by my vows, and must refuse anything more. I have come to dwell in the forest, and not to enjoy life as a chieftain's guest. These horses are my dear father's favorites. Please feed them well. We shall be content with simple food and rest for the night." They lay under the tree for the night. Guha and Lakshman kept awake, conversing with Sumantra. Guha said to Lakshman, "Brother, do go and rest. There is a bed made ready for you. My men will keep careful watch. None dare do anything in the forest unknown to me. Have no anxiety regarding Ram. Please go and sleep." But Lakshman replied, "How can I sleep, Guha? Here, lying on the bare ground, is Sita, daughter of the great Janak and daughter-in-law of the great Dasarath. The great Lord himself, who could subdue the 3 worlds, lies stretched on the grass. How can I, seeing this, sleep? I wonder how Ayodhya is bearing it. The queen's apartments must be loud with wailing. I even doubt if at this moment Kausalya and my mother are alive. My father indeed found strength somehow to say to Ram, 'Go to the forest,' but I doubt if he has strength enough left to survive Ram's actual departure. And if he has passed away, our mothers too will have given up their lives. And here we are, deprived even of the privilege of doing the last rites to the dead. In any case, it is hardly possible that our father and mothers will be alive to greet us when we return to Ayodhya after our term in the forests. Thus spoke Lakshman in sorrow. Guha was in tears. The night was spent in such sad conversation. Early next morning, Ram told Lakshman, "We must now cross the river. Ask Guha to make ready a boat big enough for crossing this broad river." Guha ordered his men to get this done and informed Ram. Sumantra bowed low and stood before Ram, seeking his further commands. Ram understood Sumantra's unspoken grief, and, laying his hand on Sumantra's shoulders, said, "Sumantra, return to Ayodhya with all speed, and be at the side of the king. Your duty is now to look after him." "O Ram, righteousness, learning, and culture seem to be of no value. You and your brother and Sita are going to live in the forest. What is going to be our lot? How are we going to fare under Kaikeyi's rule?" He now wept like a child. Wiping the tears from Sumantra's eyes, Ram said, "Our family has known no nobler friend than you. It will be your task to console my father. His heart is riven by grief. Whatever his commands, carry them out dutifully. Do not ask yourself whether he wants a thing for himself or with a view to pleasing Kaikeyi. Avoid giving him any pain of mind, and have no anxiety about us. You should say this on my behalf to my aged father, who is stricken with a grief he never knew before. Clasp his feet as you have seen me do, and assure him from me that none of us, not I, nor Lakshman, nor Sita, feel injured or sorry at having been sent away from Ayodhya. We look forward to 14 years of forest life, which will speed on happy wings, and then surely we shall return to his feet for blessings. Give our love to my mother Kausalya, and tell her that, protected by her blessings, we are well. And give a similar message to my stepmothers, especially to Kaikeyi, lest she should think we have parted in anger. Tell my father that it is my earnest prayer that he should hasten with the installation of Bharat, so that he may be a comfort to him in our absence." But Sumantra, unable to restrain his grief, burst out, "How am I to return? And with what words can I give comfort?" And when he looked at the empty chariot, he wept and said, "How shall I drive this chariot that stands desolate without you?" Once again Ram spoke words of comfort and courage to Sumantra, and urged on him the duty of patience, and sent him home. "Guha," said Ram, "I could indeed spend 14 years in your kingdom, as you desire. But would that be fulfilling my vow? I have left Ayodhya to fulfill my father's pledge. I must therefore lead the life of an ascetic. I must not touch dishes daintily cooked and served. We have to live only on fruits, roots, seeds, and vegetables." Comforting Guha thus, the brothers got their locks matted with the milk of the banyan tree. They helped Sita into the boat, and then got into it themselves. Guha bade the boatmen to row it across. The boatmen took them quickly across the river. At midstream, Sita offered a prayer to the goddess of the river. "O goddess, help us to fulfill our vow, and return safe to our homeland." They talked as they went on. They reached the farther bank of the Ganges. And there for the first time the three stood alone, unattended by friends. "Lakshman, you are my sole armed guard now," said Ram. "You will go first. Sita will follow, and I shall walk behind you both. We must save Sita as far as possible from the hardship of forest life. Hereafter there will be none to keep us company, and no fun or amusement." Ram's thoughts went to his mother Kausalya. "Lakshman," he said, "should you not go back to Ayodhya and look after Mother Kausalya and Sumitra? I shall manage my forest days somehow." But Lakshman replied, "Forgive me, brother, but I am not going back to Ayodhya." Ram indeed expected no other answer. While Ram was plunged in thinking of the mothers left behind, Lakshman ministered to him with loving words of courage and hope. They spent the night under a banyan tree and left early next morning for sage Bharadwaj's ashram, which they reached at sunset. Partaking of the hospitality of the sage, they asked him to tell where they could spend the years quietly in the forest. He advised them to go to the Chitrakoot hill,